3 True Scary Stories in the Rain That Will Haunt Your Dreams Tonight. Volume 393. Black screen. The night was thick with tension, a weight that pressed down on everyone who dared to step outside. Rain pelted the streets like 1,000 sharp whispers, but there was something wrong. Something deeply unsettling about the suck and squelch beneath every footstep. In the distance, a figure swayed, a man or a shadow. The line blurred, as fog curled like tendrils, devouring any shred of security. Tonight, mysteries would unfurl, and terrors would creep from the corners of the mind, turning soft rain into a whispering nightmare. Just last week, a child's laughter had turned to piercing screams that echoed through the town square. Witnesses claimed they saw a dark shape dart between the raindrops, dragging that innocent giggle down into a silence so intense that even the rain seemed to still. And then there was the old woman at the end of Maple Street who swore she spoke with spirits. They either warned her of dark clouds overhead, or was it the brown eyes staring from a window that saw too much? No one could tell, but the locals murmured her name with a mix of fear and reverence. Evelyn. Stories wove through the town like vines, growing thicker, twisting tighter. It was impossible not to feel the electricity in the air, especially on a night like this. The wind tangled through branches, making the trees look like they were dancing to some unseen tune. A thin chill crept down spines, filling thoughts with dread and visions of dark figures lurking, just waiting for the sound of a heartbeat to find its way in. Other townsfolk felt it too, pausing mid-sentence, wide eyes darting, hearts pounding. Only the bravest ventured out, and even they were looking over their shoulders. What would happen next? Who would be the next to disappear? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And just as the clock struck midnight, the rain turned heavy and relentless. It was then that the sirens screamed through the deserted streets, summoning a long-buried fear. Suddenly, the whispers returned. Help me please. It curled around the ears of anyone who could hear, teasing at minds already frayed by the weight of the unknown. Shadows lengthened and twisted along the wet pavement as if willing them to follow deeper into the night. What haunted secrets had the rain carried tonight? Who was calling for help, and where did they want the brave souls to tread next? The echoes of that haunting plea twisted through the soaked streets, reverberating in the hearts of those who lingered in the liminal spaces between safety and danger. It was as if the rain itself had a voice, a whisper breathing life into the darkness. Clara, the local librarian, stood frozen at her door, her hand gripping the wooden frame as the chill of the night wrapped around her like an unwelcome embrace. She could hear it, faint yet sharp, a plea that sent shivers racing down her spine. Help me! It came again, a desperate murmur slicing through the relentless drumming of rain. Was it a trick of the wind, or something more sinister? Forgetting the comfort of her home, Clara stepped into the torrents. Each step was a battle against fear, and yet her curiosity propelled her forward, through the glistening puddles that reflected the shattered moonlight. She made her way toward Mushroom Park, the very place where laughter had unraveled into scream just days prior. Desperation clawed at her chest. She had to know. Was it a child? Was it someone in peril? The city had already witnessed horrors. She couldn't bear to think of another. As she approached the park, the world seemed to shift. The trees loomed larger, their silhouettes monstrous, bowing as if to reveal secrets hidden beneath their roots. There it was again, that soft sound, a shiver of a voice. Clara's heart thundered, drowning out the constant rain. Help me! Lifting her eyes, she caught sight of movement. In the thick shadows beneath an old oak, near the swings that creaked mournfully in the wind, a small figure trembled. Was it a child? Hello? She called out, her voice barely above a whisper, swallowed by the rain. The figure paused, as if sensing her presence. A thin body lurched forward, illuminated for a split second by a faint flash of lightning. A girl, hair soaked and tangled, eyes wide and glimmering. Clara's stomach twisted. This was no ordinary child, her expression was clouded in something unsettling. "Please," the girl croaked. "It wants to take you 2 times stilled." The rain fell harder, blurring the edges of reality. Was it the girl speaking or something lurking behind her? Clara felt an instinctual pull to retreat but fought it with every ounce of strength. What did she mean? What did she see? Who? What wants to take me? Clara pressed, her voice stronger than she felt. The girl stepped further into the dim light, revealing a bruise forming on her arm, a smudge of darkness twisting around her. "The shadows," she gasped, trembling. "They're coming for you. Don't look back." Suddenly, the wind howled, transforming into a chorus of malevolent whispers, drowning out Clara's thoughts. Shadows danced erratically around her, and panic surged through her. Was it too late? Heart racing, she hesitated, the girl's words echoed like a bell tolling in her mind, every instinct screamed at her to flee. But then a chilling laughter broke through the air, taunting and hollow. From beneath the swings, a figure began to shift, blending seamlessly into the shadows. Clara's breath caught in her throat. It felt as if the night itself was swallowing her whole. "What do I do?" she breathed, staring at the girl's terrified eyes, knowing the answer wasn't as simple as running away. "Just run." The girl screamed, but it was too late. In that moment, the figure emerged in full, shadow and rain converging, ready to ensnare its next victim. Clara's legs moved of their own accord, but where to run? With adrenaline surging, she glanced over her shoulder and saw the darkness snapping behind her like hungry jaws. The rain drummed, each drop a countdown, and in that fevered heartbeat, she realized, the shadows hungered, and one question pierced her mind like a jagged stone: where was Evelyn now? The night had only begun its dance, and Clara was ensnared in its chilling embrace. Clara sprinted, her breath coming out in quick, frantic gasps. Each thud of her heart echoed in her ears, pounding a rhythm of fear to match the relentless beat of the rain. The girl's warning pierced through her mind, but she couldn't focus on anything except the darkness that clawed at her heels. As she dashed past the park's overgrown hedges, her feet slipped on the slick grass, and she nearly faltered. Panic pulled at her, insisting she didn't stop, didn't look back. Yet, that laughter echoed in her ears, a sinister melody that made her skin crawl. Shadows twisted and turned at the corner of her vision, fleeting glimpses of something grotesque lurking behind the trees. Clara's instinct screamed at her to get to safety, but where? She made a desperate beeline for the streetlight flickering like a heartbeat ahead. The feeble glow felt like a promise of safety, but it was also a stark reminder that the entire world beyond it was plastered in darkness. Suddenly, the silhouette of the girl emerged again, catching Clara off guard. "You have to listen," she shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of urgency. Clara skidded to a halt, unsure whether to trust the haunting figure. "There's no time. It can't find you here." "Who are you?" Clara gasped, her lungs burning, each word a battle to form. The girl's eyes were wide with terror, but there was something deeper, something that felt like urgency mixed with something akin to a warning. "What do you know?" "There are places," the girl whispered, her voice trembling. "Places that keep the shadows away. Follow me." With no other option, Clara nodded and broke into a run once more, the girl right beside her, leading her deeper into the park. As they crashed through the underbrush, Clara couldn't help but glance to the side. The shadows swirled and thickened, shifting like living smoke. They whispered her name, each sound a taunting reminder of every failing, every fear she ever hid. The girl pointed to an old gazebo up ahead, its structure worn but still standing, a refuge amidst the chaos. "In there," she urged, urgency trembling in her voice. Without a second thought, Clara rushed inside, her heart pounding in her chest as she looked around frantically, expecting the shadows to follow. The moment they stepped inside, the air felt different. It was thick and charged, an electric tension that stung Clara's skin. Outside, the shadows danced wildly, refusing to take form, but they were there, waiting, lurking just outside their makeshift sanctuary. "What are they?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper, fear choking her words as the girl's gaze turned somber. "They are what happens when fear and darkness unite, when people stop believing." "What do you mean? What is this place?" The girl's eyes glimmered with unshed tears, haunted by something Clara couldn't quite understand. "It used to protect people, but it has been forgotten. If we don't bring back the light, they'll creep in and rot everything from the inside out." A sudden crash echoed from outside, as if something had broken through the barrier. Clara whipped around, heart leaping into her throat. The darkness pressed on the gazebo, pushing in like a wave, demanding to be let in. "Keep the light away!" the girl shouted, panic in her voice. Clara could feel it, that sensation of something watching from beyond, an unseen force just waiting for a slip, a moment of weakness. In a frenzy, Clara's eyes darted around the gazebo, searching for something, anything to use. Hearts hammering, they had to act fast. But the shadows were creeping closer. They were consuming the light, and then, a flicker caught Clara's eye, the remnants of a lantern, dusty and forgotten. She lunged for it, her fingers trembling as she grasped the old metal. If there was any chance to push the darkness back, this might be it. Would they find a way to light it before it was too late? Yearning for the warmth of illumination, she felt the shadows closing in like a suffocating fog, threatening to engulf them both. Clara's fingers fumbled with the lantern, rusty and heavy. She felt its cold metal biting into her palm, grounding her in the swirling chaos. The winds howled outside like wailing ghosts, the shadows lurking just beyond the gazebo's edges. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the rising panic that threatened to drown her. "Do you know how to light it?" the girl asked, her gaze darting anxiously toward the entrance. Clara could see the shadows writhing impatiently, viscerally hungry for any sign of light. I think I can," Clara stuttered, her mind racing. There was no time for doubts. Each second felt like an eternity, the darkness inching closer. As if sensing her hesitation, she scanned the interior of the gazebo and spotted a pile of dry leaves and twigs at the base of a faded wooden pillar. "We can start a fire!" Clara exclaimed, hope blooming amidst the dread. "Be quick! It can sense your fear. The longer we wait, the stronger it gets," the girl urged, her eyes wide with terror. With trembling hands, Clara gathered the dried debris together, heart pounding in rhythm with her frantic thoughts. She desperately searched for a spark to ignite the flame. Looking closer at the lantern, she noticed a glass panel stained with time, but it had a small opening at the top perfect for feeding a flickering flame. "Can you help me find something to light it?" Clara asked, her voice shaking. The girl nodded, glancing nervously at the entrance where flickers of shadows danced just out of reach. "There are matches in my bag," she said, and Clara quickly rummaged through it, her heart racing in anticipation. She found a small box tucked away, shakily pulled it out, and opened it. 3 matches sat inside like tiny sentinels of hope. "Just one is all we need," the girl said, her voice steadying. "But hurry!" Clara struck the first match, a scratch that felt like a gunshot in the silence. She held it to the pile, but it fizzled out before it could catch. Fear coiled tighter around her chest. "Try again," the girl urged, her anxiety almost palpable. Clara closed her eyes for a split second, steadied her breath, and struck another match. It burned brightly, lighting her face in a flickering glow. She leaned into the pile, coaxing the flame towards the dry leaves, willing it to grow. And then, it caught, tiny and fragile but alive. Just as the flames began to dance, a horrible sound erupted from outside. It was a screeching wail, the shadows screeching like banshees. The gazebo shook under the weight of something crashing against it. Clara's heart raced as she watched the flicker of light struggle against the encroaching darkness. "Keep adding to it," the girl shouted, her voice ringing with urgency. Clara grabbed more twigs, feeding the flame, watching it expand, illuminating the shadows just enough to reveal shifting figures beyond. They were grotesque, distorted faces stretching and swirling, eyes wide with empty hunger, but within the glow of the lantern, the air felt lighter, the shadows retreating just a fraction. Clara felt a sliver of hope, but it quickly dulled when she saw what was happening around them. Trees creaked and moaned, their branches elongated, twisting toward them like sinister fingers. "What are they doing?" Clara asked, panic creeping back in as she looked towards the girl. "They're trying to break through. We have to keep the fire alive," she shouted, pushing Clara toward the growing flames. Clara added more to the fire, but the shadows danced aggressively, whispering her name again and again, mocking her with every flicker of the lantern that eye in the chaos. A shadow lunged forward, a chilling breeze rushing past them like death itself. Clara gasped, feeling the cold seep into her bones. The lantern's light flickered dangerously, threatening to extinguish. With a growing sense of desperation, Clara had to make a choice: give in to fear and let the darkness take them, or find a way to amplify their light and drive the shadows back once and for all. "Together, we can do this," the girl screamed, pulling her own handful of twigs to add to the fire. Clara's breath caught in her throat. But what if it's not enough? Suddenly, the air crackled loud with energy, and a deep rumble echoed through the park. "Trust in the light," the girl cried, and Clara felt the shadows flinch, if only for a moment. Clara squeezed her eyes shut, focusing her thoughts, her fears, her hopes, all of it directing it into the flickering flame. The fire blazed brighter, crackling with defiance, and then, an explosion of light erupted, engulfing them in warmth. What emerged from the blaze was something Clara never expected. Would the light withstand the darkness? Or had they awakened something worse within the shadows? The light roared to life, fierce and blinding, illuminating the dank corners of the gazebo. Clara shielded her eyes against the brightness, aware that their fragile moment of safety could shatter in an instant. Yet, within that blinding glow, she found strength. "What happened?" she managed to ask, her voice slightly muffled by the thunder of her heartbeat. The girl, still huddled close, looked at Clara with awe. "The light, it's responding to us. Keep believing." The shadows writhed at the edges, their once aggressive dance now faltering. Confused by the unexpected brightness, Clara took a deep breath, feeling waves of warmth pull her back from the brink of despair. She glanced at the pile of twigs, now fully transformed as they crackled and sparked, releasing a vibrant glow that pushed back against the creeping darkness beyond the gazebo. But then the shrieks came again, a haunting cacophony that made the very air tremble. "They're angry," the girl yelled, snapping Clara back to the present. Their shadows surged, pushing against the barrier of light, as if testing its strength. "I can't hold it much longer," Clara exclaimed, panic rising anew. The blaze flickered, struggling against the howling wind. She reached deeper into herself, searching for anything she could give to the roaring fire. "Concentrate," the girl shouted. "Focus on the fear, but don't let it consume you." Clara closed her eyes again. Memories swarmed her mother's gentle smile, the comfort of warm summer evenings, laughter echoing through their home. She poured those feelings into the flame, feeling the energy shift, knowing it had to work. With every positive thought, she could almost hear the fire respond as it flared up, golden and vibrant, but just as it blazed higher, thunder cracked above. A figure materialized on the periphery, looming just out of reach. Clara's heart dropped. It was larger than any shadow they had seen, an echo of darkness clothed in the very essence of night. "What is that?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "It's the heart of the shadow. It feeds on fear," the girl screamed, eyes wide. "It wants to draw you in." Clara's body froze, instinctively wanting to retreat. The shadows beckoned, promising solace and escape from her fears, but she had tasted strength in the light. Clara forced herself to remember the warmth, the hope that flared against the darkness. "Don't look away," she shouted, her voice stronger. "We're fighting this together." The girl nodded, determination igniting in her eyes. "Keep the fire alive, Clara. We have to banish it." The dark figure lunged forward, its shadow stretching ominously. Clara's heart raced, but she refused to let the fear take her. She reached for more twigs, knowing now this was a battle for their lives. The fire danced wildly, flickering in response to their combined courage. "Come on!" she yelled, pitching the twigs into the shrine of light. She screamed, pouring every ounce of her spirit into her words. "You have no power here." The fire didn't just illuminate, it blared with a furious glow, striking against the insatiable dark. For a moment, Clara thought she saw the figure falter, caught in the brilliance of their shared strength, but then it screeched, a sound like metallic jaws snapping open. Clara felt it seep through the air, invading her senses, drowning her in misery. As she stood there, the ground beneath her trembled. "It's trying to bring us down." The girl gasped, her face pale. "We need to raise the light higher." Just as Clara's resolve began to waver, a sudden breeze swept through the gazebo, an unexpected ally. It wrapped around them, swirling with the warmth of the flame, lifting the shadows back momentarily. Clara's pulse quickened as realization struck. "The wind. It's feeding off our fear, but it can't touch our hope." But even as she spoke, a menacing shadow lunged from the edge, reaching for the lantern. Clara's breath caught in her throat. What if it succeeded? "Grab hold!" the girl shouted. And together, they lifted the lantern high, holding it against the darkness that converged. Yet, as the lantern glowed fiercely, a horrifying crack tore through the night, the shadows shrieked as everything around them began to shatter, and Clara felt herself being pulled. Could they hold the darkness back? Or had they just ignited something far worse than they could ever imagine? As the chaos enveloped them, the gazebo trembled under the weight of the battle, and the ground beneath Clara's feet felt ready to crumble. The explosion of light was only the beginning. The ground quaked violently, a shuddering roar echoing through the gazebo as the lantern glowed fiercely, pulsating with their combined energy. Clara felt the surge of fear wash over her, but it was entwined with a thread of courage, making her heart thunder in her chest. "It's not just us." The girl shouted over the tempest, her voice slicing through the din, "The light is calling for help." Clara's eyes widened as the shadows reeled back. She could see flickers of movement, other figures in the darkness, their shapes twisting in an agonizing ballet of despair and anger. Were they trapped like her, longing for the freedom she felt creeping closer? "Focus, Clara." The girl's grip tightened on the lantern. "We have to share our light. Let the others feel it too." Clara clenched her jaw and summoned every ounce of belief she had left. "Together!" she yelled, igniting a spark of excitement within. As they held the lantern high, the shadows howled louder. Each wail sliced through the air like a serrated knife, threatening to eat away at their newfound resolve. But Clara could see it the faintest shimmer through the edges of the dark. For every shadow that shrieked and lunged, there were faint echoes of light flickering back at them. These souls caught in the depths were yearning for a way out. "Let them in!" Clara shouted, her voice rising over the chaos. "We can't do this alone." The girl's eyes narrowed, yet she nodded fiercely. Together, they began to chant. Light. Hope. Freedom. Their voices wove together, harmonizing against the rising tide of despair. With every syllable, the lantern flared brighter, a beacon cutting through the encroaching shadows. A small vortex of light spiraled outward, searching for the trapped souls beyond their bubble of safety. Clara felt the warmth envelop her, pushing against the cold dread that clawed at her heart. "Can you see them?" the girl cried, her voice full of wonder, drawing Clara's focus. In that chaotic flicker, faces began to emerge in the shadows, ghostly whispers of hope pleading through the night. They reached out, their hands grasping for the light Clara and the girl were offering, faces of sorrow turning to flickers of recognition as they responded. Clara's spirit soared. Together, they were creating a bridge. "You are not alone," she called, pouring every ounce of her strength into those words. Dark tendrils wavered and swirled, dissolving in the brilliance of their combined faith. But as the bond grew stronger, the dark figure loomed larger, its form a swirling mass of rage and despair, a stark contrast to the warmth shining from the lantern. It clawed relentlessly toward them, its horrific screech resonating within Clara's bones. "No. Stay strong," Clara urged, only to feel her strength falter. Doubt crept in, threatening to pull her under. She felt the chilling grip of the shadows, icy fingers grasping at her ankles, pulling her towards the gaping maw of fear. "Don't let them in," the girl shouted, her voice cracked with urgency. "You have to believe enough for both of us." Tremors of despair coursed through Clara as memories of her childhood danced through her mind. The laughter of friends, the security of home flooded her consciousness. If she lost this fight, every moment she loved would slip away. The shadows pulsed around her feet, whispering false promises of escape. "You can end this, come with us," they hissed in a chorus of sinister voices. In a moment of clarity, Clara flared her hands outward, her determination overriding the fear. "You will not take me," she declared, and the lantern blazed ferociously in response. Light erupted from her fingertips, scorching the shadows around her, but just as hope filled the air, a sudden chill pierced through, and a new shadow emerged from behind the dark figure, larger and more terrifying than anything they had faced yet. It loomed in the distance, watching, studying, waiting with insatiable hunger. "Clara!" The girl screamed, terror seeping into her voice as she pointed toward the behemoth. In that instant, Clara's heart plummeted, dread washing over her. "What is that?" she whispered, sensing the darkness thickening. The battle was far from over, and the worst was still to come. The towering shadow hovered, its massive form absorbing the light that fought valiantly against the darkness. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over her. It was as if the very air had thickened, making each inhalation like dragging a heavy weight into her lungs. "What do we do?" she croaked, the panic pooling in her stomach, the girl's wide eyes mirroring her fear. Behind the original dark figure, the new terror loomed larger, clearly sent to punish them for daring to resist. "Keep the lantern up," the girl urged, her own voice trembling as shadows twisted around them like snakes. "It feeds off fear. Stay strong." Clara nodded, though her heart raced. She could almost hear the clock ticking, every second echoing louder in her ears. The growing sense of urgency pushed her forward, forcing her to focus on the light that flickered between her fingers. Light. Hope. Freedom. They echoed once more, voices rising in defiance against despair. The lantern sparkled in response, but the shadows clawed at its brightness. Clara felt their cold breaths against her neck, a shiver racing down her spine. Hands gripped tighter at her ankles, dragging her ever closer to the ground, whispering sweet, poisonous words that tingled along her skin. "Just give up, it's easier this way," but Clara's mind flickered back to her parents' laughter, to her childhood home, to the warmth of the sun breaking through the trees. "No!" she cried, pulling against the weight. "You can't take me." Suddenly, a shriek echoed across the gazebo, a piercing sound of rage that seemed to cleave through the very fabric of reality. The original shadow figure lunged, its dark claws slashing across the air, and in that moment, Clara realized they were not just fighting for their lives, they were battling for the lives of those trapped within the darkness. As the lantern pulsed again, Clara's resolve solidified. "We'll fight together. Remember them," she yelled, the girl nodding fiercely at her side. Faces appeared again in the swirling chaos, reflections of the trapped, their dread mixing with desperate hope. "Can you feel it?" the girl shouted, her voice full of conviction. "Our light reaches them. It's working." Clara felt the vibrations of agreement from the figures behind them as they joined in their chant, "Light. Hope. Freedom." It was a rising tide of positive energy against a relentless storm of shadows. But the behemoth's shadow stretched further, an unyielding force that threatened to swallow them whole. "You'll regret this," it thundered, its voice a low growl that reverberated through their bones. The shadows surged forward, feeding off the fear and doubt, threatening to extinguish their flame. "Don't listen to it," Clara shouted, desperation fueling her words. "Stay with me. We can do this." The girl's grip on the lantern intensified. The air crackled with tension, the light fluttering dangerously. Clara's heart raced, sweat dripping down her brow as she could see the faces of trapped souls beginning to shift, the dark abyss receding just slightly. "Hold on. Hold on," the girl cried, her voice fierce and unwavering against the adversary looming above them. But Clara felt the ground beneath her shake, the pulsing darkness seeming to gather strength. Just then, a bright flash erupted, momentarily blinding Clara, flickers of memory flooding her consciousness, each memory more powerful than the last. Among them, she saw her friends, her schoolyard, sunny days filled with laughter. The faces shifted, becoming more distorted as the shadows gripped harder. The pulse of the lantern surged as fury ignited within her. "You can't have them. You can't have me," Clara screamed, her voice a mixture of anger and fear. The shadows writhed violently, battling her light with desperation. Yet, just as Clara felt the balance shifting, as hope dangled tantalizingly close, the giant shadow issued a terrifying roar, rippling through the air. "Join me, Clara. It's only a matter of time." With horror growing in her chest, she gazed upon the monstrous eyes, those swirling voids promising an end to suffering. If only she surrendered to the darkness, what if its offer was true? What if yielding was the only way out? The weight of the choice bore down on her like a tidal wave, washing away certainty and leaving only despair and yearning. Just as the ripples of doubt began to wash over her, the lantern dimmed, sputtering dangerously. Did they still have enough light to fight? Clara's heart raced. The behemoth was close, too close. Clara's breath quickened as the shadows closed in around them, whispering promises of surrender. The lantern flickered anew, a last defiant pulse, and Clara felt that weight on her shoulders grow unbearable. Fear wrapped around her like a vice, and for an instant, she hesitated. "No. Focus," the girl beside her urged, her voice slicing through the despair. Clara locked eyes with her, finding strength in their shared fear. They were standing at the edge of a precipice, and they both knew they couldn't turn back. Light. Hope. Freedom. Clara shouted, fueling the chant with every ounce of her energy. The words spilled from her like lifeblood, igniting a fire within the lantern that surged in brightness, pushing back the encroaching darkness. The behemoth roared again, and the ground quivered as if it were alive. The shadow's claws lashed out, striking against the barrier of light like thunder against a fragile wall. Clara felt the tremors shake her bones, the paralyzing dread creeping in, but she pushed it back. "Stand firm. We won't yield," Clara exclaimed, finding an anchor in her own words. Suddenly, the lantern flickered as if caught in a gust of wind, and Clara's heart dropped. For a split second, she thought it might die out. Panic clawed at her throat, but amid the chaos, she noticed something. The faces of the trapped souls were shifting, their anguish transforming into determination. They were rallying, harnessing their collective despair into something greater. "Look!" the girl yelled, pointing toward the retreating shadows. "They're fighting, too." Indeed, the faces were growing brighter, flickers of light spreading from them like dawn breaking. Clara understood now. The shadows thrived on fear, yet the trapped souls weren't just victims, they were weapons. The mere act of hope fueled their fight. "It's time to ignite our last spark," Clara shouted, raising the lantern high above her head as the girl mirrored her motion. The light intensified, a blinding beacon in the dark abyss, illuminating the unseen paths within the shadows. "Together. Don't stop," Clara screamed, her voice melding with the cries of the trapped. The earth trembled ferociously, and the behemoth's mass loomed larger than ever. "You think this pitiful light can save you?" it bellowed, its low growl echoing like a death knell. "Watch us. Clara challenged, heart hammering. In that moment, she felt the essence of all those lost souls surging through her, giving her strength. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for them. A storm erupted, light swirling, mixing with shadows in a chaotic dance of energy. Clara dared to take a step forward, then another, emboldened by the presence of the shining spirits at her back. With every step, the shadows cringed away, clawing at the edges of the light as they lost their grip on her. But just as victory seemed possible, the behemoth struck again with bone-chilling ferocity, striking the ground, sending tremors through Clara's body. Foolish children. You'll only find despair. You'll join me or be consumed. Clara's heart sank, but she refused to back down. No. We want to let you take us. We are stronger together. Her words were not just a challenge, they were a lifeline. Then, the girl's voice joined hers, ringing like clarity through chaos. We are the light. We are the hope. Freedom is ours. The lantern spiked brighter, a flash that pushed back against the shadows, but the behemoth would not relent. It lunged forward, and Clara braced herself for the impact. In that final heartbeat, she felt a collective strength rising among the souls around her. Yes, they could do this. Just as the two forces collided, Clara's heart leaped. Could they truly break free? Was the gathering light powerful enough to dispel the dread for good? Suddenly, a crack echoed through the air, an explosion of brilliant light that threatened to engulf everything. What would emerge from the chaos? Would they be saved, or would they fall into eternal darkness? As the radiant light erupted, Clara felt a jolt ripple through her, energizing every fiber of her being. The shadows wailed, a cacophony of fear that echoed like thunder against the walls of the abyss. For a fleeting moment, time stood still, leaving her suspended in the brilliance. But then, in an instant, the eruption seemed to fracture, and darkness began to push back. Hold steady. She screamed, gripping the lantern harder, her fingers burning with a mixture of anxiety and ferocity. Next to her, she could see the girl fighting just as fiercely, her determination lit up in stark relief against the encroaching shadows. The behemoth roared again, its terrifying visage closer than ever, darkness pooling around its feet, reaching for Clara and her companion like hungry tendrils. You think you can outshine me? You're nothing but embers. It mocked, its voice dripping with venom. No. Clara shouted, drawing on every ounce of hope she could muster. We are not here to fade. The light from the lantern pulsed, flickering in synchronization with Clara's heart. With each heartbeat, she felt the connection to the damned souls behind her strengthen. They weren't just lost, they were rallying, clawing back against their fate. Faces she had never seen materialized, emerging through the darkness, their expressions twisted into grim determination. Together. Clara urged, feeling the power swell. In sync, the trapped souls resonated with her spoken words, a unified chant that grew louder, their pain morphing into focus, casting away the shroud of despair. Illumination erupted from them like geysers of light, forming a protective barrier. Shadows screamed and recoiled, biting back at the sudden wrath of radiance, but just as Clara felt they were winning, the behemoth unleashed its rage. It slammed a colossal hand down onto the barrier of light, sending a shockwave that buckled the ground beneath them. Clara stumbled, the lantern nearly slipping from her grip. Don't let go. The girl yelled. Clara steadied herself, gritting her teeth. This was no time to falter. We will break through. We will return to the light. The words rang in her ears like a battle cry, igniting a fierce flame deep within her gut. With newfound resolve, she raised the lantern higher, letting it catch every soul's spirit, making their light burn even brighter. Suddenly, the shadows twisted, spiraling in on themselves as if caught in a whirlwind. The air cracked with intense energy as the behemoth's confidence started to falter. Clara could see it now, it was no longer just a monstrous creature, it was afraid. Now! She shouted, feeling a fierce rush of adrenaline, a surge of hope. Push! As if following her command, the souls surged forward, pouring their essence into the beam of the lantern. It exploded with light, creating arcs that sliced through the darkness, scattering shadows like autumn leaves in a gust of wind. The behemoth staggered, its clawed hands shielding its eyes from the brilliant onslaught. "You cannot defeat me," it roared, but its voice trembled. Clara took a step forward, feeling the ground solidly beneath her feet, and shouted with all her might. "Yes, we can. Together, we are unstoppable." With one final, concentrated roar from the entities around them, the light from the lantern engulfed the behemoth. It shrieked a primal sound that shook the very foundation of the abyss. As the illumination swept forward, Clara held her breath, fearing the inevitable clash. Would this be their salvation, or their end? Just as the brilliance swallowed the creature whole, Clara felt a powerful tug. The ground beneath her began to crack, fissures radiating outward as if the earth itself were trying to escape its clutch. "Clara! We need to move!" The girl yelled as the explosion of light began to collapse upon itself, creating a small vortex of swirling shadows and shards of brilliance. Clara had a moment to react. Would they leap together into the unknown? The lantern flickered fiercely in her hand, its glow refusing to die out even amidst this chaos. That heartbeat, she had to decide, leap into the spinning chaos or risk being thrown back into the clutches of despair. "Now!" Clara shouted, grasping the girl's hand tightly. Together, they leaped into the swirling realm of light and darkness, unsure of what lay beyond. Would they find their freedom, or would the shadows swallow them whole? Clara and the girl felt the world dissolve around them, the swirling darkness, light, and shadows clashing in a chaotic ballet. Time slowed as they plunged into the unknown, hand in hand. It felt as if they were suspended in liquid light. Every heartbeat echoed warmth through their veins, bolstering their resolve against the melee above. Suddenly, a rush of energy surged, the air hummed with an electric tension, and a blinding flash overwhelmed them momentarily. Clara squeezed the girl's hand tighter, affirming their bond. This was their shared battle. As their vision cleared, they found themselves standing on the soft grass of their town's park, the rain now a gentle patter against their skin. The air smelled clean, fresh, like a chill that dissipated old fears. The dreadful shadows had vanished, disintegrated into the mist, leaving behind nothing but stillness. "Did we win?" Clara whispered, breathless with disbelief. The girl turned to her, eyes wide and glimmering, shimmered with unshed tears. "We did together," she replied, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and wonder. Clara's heart swelled with gratitude, realizing their battle had freed more than just themselves. Flickers of hope floated around them, and the chilling darkness that once loomed had released its grip on the lost souls. Ghostly whispers of joy danced through the trees, echoes of those they had fought for, sharing the warmth of newfound freedom. But as Clara scanned the park, she recognized something else. The gazebo stood intact, the very place where their fight unfolded. It pulsed with a gentle light, radiating an aura that would forever remind them of their struggle. A sudden unease gripped her. "What about Evelyn?" she asked, a tightness forming in her throat. The old woman had known the shadows intimately. What had happened in the depths of that fight? In the darkness they had escaped. Before the girl could respond, a familiar voice called out, a soothing tone wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. "Ah, dear Clara." It was Evelyn, sturdy as ever, emerging from the path. "You've done it. You've vanquished the shadows." Clara's heart soared. "But how? You knew this was coming?" Evelyn chuckled softly, gauging the brightening world around them. "Every tale of darkness has its heroes. You both became a beacon, a guide. And in doing so, you ignited forgotten flames within this town. The shadows are banished, but they grow where despair festers. You've shown that light and unity will forever overcome darkness." Clara looked at the girl, their shared triumph reflected in their smiles. "From this day forth," Evelyn continued, "the park will forever be sacred, a reminder of what you achieved. The community must come together now, sharing stories, laughter, and love. Only then will the darkness remain at bay." Clara nodded, understanding now what they needed to do. They had to keep the light alive, sharing tales of hope and bravery. With the cool night air whispering through the park, they took their place among the twinkling stars above, each glimmer resonating with memories of their fight. Clara turned to the girl, now beside her, glistening with the remnants of their shared courage. "Let us tell everyone. Let us make them believe." "Yes." The girl beamed, her eyes full of determination. Clara felt a warm surge of purpose coursing through her. This was the start of something beautiful. As they approached the town, the rain ceased, leaving a brilliant sense of renewal in its wake. Each step felt lighter on the ground, the darkness now a story of caution rather than fear. Clara's heart was a wild drumbeat of excitement and hope, a newfound understanding of herself and her community, and when they reached the square, she smiled. They wouldn't just be survivors, together they would inspire others to shine brightly against the lurking shadows. They would gather everyone, friends, parents, siblings, to celebrate not just their victory, but the bonds forged in the darkest night. Evelyn was right, Clara declared, beaming at her friend. Together, we are unstoppable. As they stepped into the bustling light of the townsfolk, Clara felt the warmth of connection deep within her. The dawn had truly broken, and as she turned to the crowd, ready to share their story, she signed her commitment to the community's bright future. She knew this was just the beginning. So now, dear friends, it's time for you to join in on this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And you need to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. It's your turn to be part of the light.